Hello, everyone, and welcome to episode 2 of BTC Unlocked, the podcast. I'm your host, Jason Hagholm, and today we are joined by the man that puts all the fights together for BTC Fight Promotion, matchmaker extraordinaire, Woodrow James, better known as Woody James. Woody, how are you doing?
Good, man. Thank you for having me.
Well, thanks for making the long trek down from Sarnia here to be a part of episode 2. Woody, obviously, you know, you've been a part of the BTC team for, 3 years now?
December 22, yeah, so BTC 18.
So close to almost 3 years exactly, I guess, at this point. What's the ride been like for you so far since making the jump? I mean, you have so much experience in the sport, especially at the regional scene. What's it been like to work for BTC?
The family environment here is something that I've never been used to. So everyone works here in a big group. I love it. And just the beginning. I think I've been a part of 7 shows.
Yeah,
so,
I believe 7, yeah.
So I think we got a long way to go still.
Well, what was it like? Obviously, let people know, what's your background in the sport of mixed martial arts here in the province of Ontario? I know it's a longer story, but can you...
I'll try to be quick.
Be quick with it.
So, because you said I'm from Sarnia. It's a border city on Michigan. Ontario didn't have MMA.
Yep.
I had friends on the other side of the border where we could run events. This was before you needed a passport to cross the bridge. It wasn't as strict, and we put on shows, and 2,000 Canadians crossed over the border, and all the Canadians kicked ass, and then it was just the beginning. That was 2008. August 2008 was my first event. I ran about 100 events with a company called XCC in Michigan. Then when on 2011 it got legalized in Ontario Professional. I started right away. I was a driver at the Score Fighting Series.
Okay.
By the second show, I was one of the matchmakers there was 2 of us matchmaking then. Did 7 shows there. Then I worked for another company out of London, PFC. Worked there for 5-6 years, ran a lot of shows there, and then I've been here for 7.
So you've seen the whole evolution of the sport from being an illegal sport to now where it is, where it's still it's legal, obviously, but still trying to find its way back after the pandemic.
Yeah, I wasn't involved during the pandemic. Because I worked somewhere else. Yeah. I did nothing during that. Seeing you guys thrive made me get more interested in getting back into it. But the sport is always evolving. The athletes right now that are starting up making their pro debuts compared to years ago, they're just so good everywhere. They've been training MMA now their whole life. Back then it was still specialty when it first legalized. Even when I started in 2008, it was striker, grappler still.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, that's when I kind of got into the sport, hardcore was 2008, being 18, just really falling in love with it.
What was your first BTC?
My first BTC was actually 3, just covering it. And then I went to 5 in Windsor, and then 6 was the first one on the mic. So I've been since 2019, over 5 years now. That was June 1st, 2019 was the first show I did. So yeah, even there I've seen the company change and the sports and the matchmaking style change, obviously, with you now taking over.
Yeah, I think obviously there's a lot of the same fighters a lot of the same fighters from before I got here, but I don't know. You can tell that there's a difference in style.
Yeah.
Since I've been here, I feel like our champions can beat any champions in Canada. I pride myself on that. That's so important to me that, sure, you have quantity. Our guys can beat your guys up. That is...
Yeah, so what's your, matchmaking style then, Woody?
I don't know. I'm sure somebody else answering this question for me would have a lot more blunt of an answer, but we know who the ticket sellers are. In Ontario, the costs are not the same as anywhere else, so we need to focus on skill level, obviously, too, but we need ticket sellers, and we keep going. We travel. We've been going to different cities where all these guys are, a debut guy's bringing in 200-300 tickets. You can hear the crowd on a debut guy, and you're like...
Yeah.
So I think we've been hitting that market really well, and coming up, our next event is in, as of recording this, 6 weeks, and we have a lot of locals on the card there too. So we're going to Oshawa. I've never even been to Oshawa.
Neither me. I've driven through it twice now to go to 2 shows in Kingston, but I mean it's a good sports market first of all.
I think Eric Lindros is the only thing I always
Oshawa
think of.
Generals is
Oshawa.
all I can really think about Oshawa. Good hockey players came out of there. Lindros, John Tavares. But yeah, it's a good market.
Yes, I didn't even know that.
Yeah. So I mean, like, how do you like? Obviously, you talk about like you want the ticket sellers. Like, how hard is it to try to find those guys, especially at the regional scene where they're just here for a flash before a major promotion kind of picks them up?
Well, like look at the top of our card. Sometimes they're not. The bottom part of the card are usually the ticket sellers. The top part of the card are our highest level. Sure, they sell tickets too, but we travel around everywhere with those guys. So I'm having a hard time always. Our champions are so good. It's hard to get guys to fight our guys. And I'm telling you right now that it is not as... Everyone's tough till they get a matchup.
Right.
And right now that is... I've done very well with getting the right fights, and I hope it keeps going that way. Knock on wood. But I don't know. I kind of ramble on with your question, Jay. Sorry, buddy.
It's okay.
I get nervous finally recording on something like this. We can talk on the phone all day about it, though.
No, I mean I get it's tough to find matches, especially with how quality our champions. When you look at our champions, like Adam Ascens is at lightweight, Jesse Ronson's at welterweight, TJ Laramie's at featherweight, and you can go on and on.
Tony
Laramie's
Tony
at
Laramie
flyweight.
is nearly impossible to match up.
I mean, he's just so talented right now.
We brought 2 high-level opponents in for him, and he fought for under a minute.
Yeah, he hasn't even spent 1 minute.
And those guys, like, he just beat Josh Smith. That guy has he been finished? That was first knockout anyway.
I think first finish loss in like 5-6 years.
Yeah, and he had a lot of tough fights.
Yeah.
And then that Mexican kid we brought last year, 7-0. Like, holy. And TJ, same thing. Or Tony, sorry.
Yeah.
Sorry, guys.
I understand that. And I'm just like, what's the mindset of trying to like troubleshoot that? Because obviously you know how quality of a fighter a Tony Laramie or any of these top guys are. Like, what do you do to try to make sure they get fights because you know they're valuable to the strength of the show?
I'd like to think with BTC, our goal is to get them to the highest stage.
Of course, yeah.
Coming through here and talking about our champions, we want to get them the next right fight. Because the next level up from here, sure, it's a UFC, but it's Contender Series. Mm-hmm. I feel like people want to go from BTC to the Contender Series. So I'm trying to get them those type of matchups, finding any regional champions against our champions. That's the goal. So...
Yeah, I mean, then right now, UFC's not like outright signing prospects anymore.
Especially Canadians.
Especially Canadians too. I mean, what have you noticed about the change in the sport in the province, in Canada as a whole since the pandemic? Because it seems like it's still trying to catch up.
Yeah, I don't want to say because we have the high level guys. I'm not saying that, but in Ontario we're behind. We don't even have amateur. It isn't even legal here. All these other places have amateur MMA thriving. We don't have that. So a lot of our guys, to make their pro debut, they have to travel. So that proves how tough our guys are right there. A lot of our guys are going to debut elsewhere. So even for amateur, the people, there's a promotion, they'll drive out of province 10 hours to go fight an amateur show that isn't sanctioned just to get matchups.
Yeah.
So.
Well, do you think amateur will come back? I mean, when we had our Sherry on in our first episode, that seems like it's a thing that should hopefully happen at some point in 2025.
I think it'll better the sport all in all if we can start them right from the ground up. I think the IMMAF is the main amateur sanctioning body in the world, or that's who most people mimic after. If we can get something like that here, our commission sanctions it, we can have pro-ams. Like, I still want to run huge pro shows like we do, but a pro-am, having a guy with his first amateur fight on a card with someone high, it just moves everyone up that level. So, I don't know, I hope amateur comes back. It's a guessing game. 2016 is the last time amateur was here, and it's now 2024.
Yeah, you were involved in the amateur scene too when it was here as referee and in other aspects too. Well, how valuable was it for you in your experience in there?
Well, the reason why it's not even here, not to not answer your question, but
no, that's fine.
You need a PSO to run the sport, like taekwondo, boxing, wrestling, and there is no world sanctioning body. The IMMAF isn't looked on by the Olympics.
Yeah,
and that's where IOC's.
Yeah,
and it's all about us. So we don't have that. Oh, I can pitch all day. Sorry, Jay.
No, go on. I mean, I think a lot of people want to know like why amateur isn't here when it's, if you look just stateside, it's all throughout the United States.
Everywhere.
Yeah.
So I think that's going to be the thing that gets everybody back, or gets it back here, is once the IMMAF or one of those bodies is looked at in the world stage, and then it goes down below that, then it'll be Canada-wide. Because there's no way to sanction in Canada if there's not a worldwide thing. That's the big issue. And then Ontario, I hope it's coming back. I bug our commissioner every time we see him. So
To hope to get it back, obviously.
But there is other forms of amateur. There's kickboxing, Muay Thai, pancration. There is stuff. Guys are getting the experience. But full out MMA, so you know what you're getting into.
Yeah. I mean,
we need that.
Yeah, for sure. What's your experience dealing with like the commission right now? Because obviously you were here during the Ken Hayashi days.
Ken Hayashi days. 2011, when it first came legal, he didn't, my opinion, he didn't want it here. He's like, wanted to retire, didn't care to grow the sport. When you'd make an appointment with him, I feel like I'm shit talking, but when you make an appointment with him, you go, he would tell you, don't do it, you're going to lose money. What are you doing? You're wasting your time. Well, now we're making money. Look at it, we're in the same spot. Our new commissioner, Luke Kotick, night and day, he wants to see the sport evolve. He wants to work with us. This is such a random thing, but if I was a fighter and I sent in all my medicals in 2011, 2012, and my blood work was off, I got the wrong hepatitis test, it happens, you got to redo it. They would mail it back to you in the mail, not call you and go,
oh my God.
So we get back. I'm a mailman, so I'm not cutting down the time, but it takes 2 weeks sometimes for that mail to get back. And by then, more stuff's expired.
Yeah.
Now the commissioner, there's an email. High-level stuff, an email or a text.
Wow, an email in 2020, but still.
2011 it was.
Yeah.
It seems like the Stone Ages for this. He was an old boxing guy. I'm sure he learned a different way. He was great at his job, but I don't think he was a big fan of MMA. And right now with our new commission, they're still trying to change the rules. We're not on a level playing field. Our medicals here, you need way more medicals in Ontario than you do anywhere else in North America.
For like the viewer at home, like what is it on a fighter fighting in the province of Ontario needs?
So in the province,
any other province or any other state?
Well, you should have a lot of these tests anyway, but ours, it's our time frames of them. You have to get a CT scan every year. Mm-hmm. Need to get a heart test, blood, chest X-ray, physical, eye test, brainwave test, EEG. But if you're an out-of-province guy, you only need 3 tests. But you're licensed for that one day, when our guys will be licensed for the whole year.
Right.
So I don't want to get into that part of it, but there's some of it doesn't make sense. Like, I bring a guy in from Brazil. My last show, he did a CT scan, eye test, blood. Well, after 30 days, his blood's expired. Okay, that's easy. CT scan is every 60 days for him to come.
Yeah.
So we're not on a level playing field. All these other shows nobody wants to come here and get it. If I got a CT scan 6 months ago and then I sign a fight in Ontario, I got to get one now within 60 days. It's not good. Even if I hadn't fought, haven't been TKO'd. So there's dates and rules that do need to change, and I think we're on our way there. I think our commission, by 25, I feel like we're going to be near a level playing field for anyone in North America, and then watch what we can do.
Do you think the commission's aware of kind of these things?
Yeah. My understanding is they started a combat committee with a lot of people in Ontario. The commissioner from Luke is involved in it. It's a group of like-minded individuals who want to see the sport grow, and I believe they have the right mindset for it. So I just hope every day to get good news that...
It seems like the province as a whole wants to see the sport grow. I mean, we had the Minister of Sport at our show last November. Like, it seems like they actually want to see the sport grow. There's value in it. There's talented mixed martial artists in this province that need that opportunity that, as you said, it's not a level playing field. So do you feel like they're trying to actually push forward and make these changes to make Ontario the best province for the sport?
Well, Neil Lumsden was his name. He came to the event. We don't have like I said, we don't have from the ground up building with no amateur. Yeah. You can't just go get your experience in all different sports and then make a pro debut in this. Like if I played, bad comparison, but if I played inline hockey or ball hockey or lacrosse and then boom, I got signed to the pros in hockey. Probably bad analogy, but they are different sports.
Yeah.
So we need from the ground up the sport.
Well, it's like being a rugby player being like, I'm going to play pro football now.
Yeah.
It's a different
and
apples
could
and oranges.
still do very well in it. And we've
Yeah.
seen our guys
Yeah.
do well. But when Amateur was here last time, 2016, that group of guys was Surrey City,
Yeah.
Tony Laramie. That was 8 years ago. Imagine the guys in between there we should have from our own homegrown. We're getting tons of athletes. I'm not saying that. But homegrown guys that are having their debuts here. 2025.
That's the goal. Let's pray for the year 2025 for Amateur to come back. But yeah, you were talking about the Ken Ayashi days of MMA in this province as, he didn't seem like he wanted it, as opposed to where now Luke seems like he wants it here. I mean, I just can't imagine being a fighter here where you're excited to get MMA legalized. The province wanted it there. Obviously, they saw the cash cow of the boom of the UFC at that point in time. But then your guy running it's like, I don't want anything to do with this.
Yeah. I don't even know what to say about that. It was most heart. Like, I'd go in there and it just crushed. Because you had to go to Toronto, downtown, to have the meeting if you wanted to run an event. My first event I was a part of, I ran, was June 2011. So it was legal as of April. So sat with him in a meeting and he's like, nope, you guys are crazy. Why are you doing this? This ain't gonna last. All this kind of stuff. It made no sense for growth. And I don't think, it's so, like I said, night and day.
Yeah.
Luke and Ken.
Well, what's your biggest difference, I guess, in just dealing with Luke now, who seems, I've met him many times, he seems very positive and open-minded and forward-thinking as opposed to Ken.
One thing that pops to mind, Chris Clements was hometown guy for us. Rich Clementi from the UFC had 40, 50 fights.
Yep.
Now,
experienced fight.
it was a tons of fights. Immense. Chris Clements was under 10 fights. He declined that fight.
Mm-hmm.
A month later, I'm going to mess it up, McDessie fought, who's the guy who wore the thong shorts and got Dennis
Hallman, yeah.
Did they fight? He fought a guy with tons of fights and it was in the UFC a couple months later. I'm like, how did this get approved and mine got declined? And it ended up getting approved. Chris Clements knocked him out, went to the UFC.
Right.
Now, Luke is a fan of the sport. Luke watches these fights. I know he knows the answers. Like, he knows the skill level of a guy or from gyms. It's not just, or another, again, I feel like I'm such shit talking. Thank God Ken's long gone. But,
well, I think it just goes to show just the improvements the commission's had here.
But the out of province guys, like I said, they need a CT scan every 60 days. And he said to me, he goes, well, they need that in case they get knocked out in the gym. I go, what about the guys here? They need one every year. I'd hear about it if it happened here. You really think?
Yeah.
For one of these gyms to get it, hey, Ken, I got knocked out last week.
Yeah, right. The fighter mentality. You just want to fight.
I'm trying to think of the right word I didn't want to call. Luke is just way smarter at this game. Like, he's more knowledgeable. He's wanting to get better at it, and in turn makes BTC so much better.
Yeah, I mean...
I think there was a commissioner in between them too, Ray
I think
Dempster.
there was, yeah.
And I believe BTC won. Ray Dempster was the commissioner at that time.
Yeah.
So...
Well, obviously, that's been a key aspect in the positiveness of the shows going forward here. Talk about your experience with the Score Fighting series, Woody, because, that's a very treasured promotion in the province of Ontario. Obviously, being associated with the Score Television Network at the time.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, and the quality of fighters that came out of there, too. Like, beginnings of Jesse Ronson, Josh Hill came out of there.
Jordan Mean was on the first show and the last show.
Yeah.
And then he ended up going, so many guys went to the UFC from there. Literally, I went to a W1 show in Gatineau, and I ran into the boss from the Score, and we just hit it off, being buddies, like-minded things. He goes, hey, I heard you're into MMA, like more into it than just there as a fan, and he gave me a job as a shuttle driver. So once we started going there, the first live TV show that they did was in my hometown on the show that I was running.
Yeah.
So it was like...
Pressure?
Well, pressure too, yeah. Or I think the first fight, too, of the whole live thing was a fighter got kicked in the cup.
Okay.
So we're finally live on TV, and the guy's cup broke.
In half?
Yeah, so we had a huge delay. So, that's your first live TV thing. But the guys who came out of there, just seeing, when Ronson, I think it was Ryan Healy that he knocked out on the last show, the last score show. He was the co-main event, and the whole place was yelling UFC. So in Sportsnet had just bought it from the score. So we're for sure going to be a feeder system. And then they had the UFC. They're like, why do we have this?
No, they just took over the channel. I remember that because.
But at the time, us that worked there, nobody knew. We're like, hey, they're going to use us. I understand it.
I remember,
why would you have a...
I remember that time too, because they had university football too, and I was kind of in that world. And I was like, maybe they'll keep that, but they did it for like a couple of years, and then they killed it. But the heart wasn't into like when the score was the channel itself, owned by its own.
Home of the hardcore.
Home for the hardcore, yeah. It's a good old day. But yeah, like the quality of fighters that came out of there, having a television network behind it, and a television network that was like trying to be different too than your TSNs and Sportsnets at that point in time.
Well, that was my only experience being anywhere near, like, they have a television truck pulls in.
Yeah.
So it was a whole new world to me, just seeing how they did everything, how they'd find ways. But Patrick does that too now. This was just the first time I had witnessed it. You know, like the pre-fight videos where people shadow box and all, just different things like that. I'd never been into the TV world. I ran amateur fights in Michigan where it was like, okay, you showed up and weighed in and fought. There was nothing, there was no video packages, no build-up, and I don't know. It was a huge experience for me. 2011 to, I think it only went for 2 years, 2013 maybe?
About that,
maybe even the end of 2012, maybe.
BTC passed them for the most shows run in the province.
Oh, I remember.
Longer ago now. But, I mean...
Because they did 7, and it was our 8th show that we were now. I remember being announced in that.
Yeah, it was passing them. I think it was when we did BTC 8 and Niagara. Yeah, they did 7, so 8 in Niagara Falls passed them, and now we're going up to 25.
Wow.
So, I mean, the sports...
Legacy. Oshawa,
yeah.
September 14th.
So, yeah, the sport's obviously doing healthy enough here in Ontario, but, I mean... What do you think the legacy of like the Score Fighting Series is? Because anyone that I meet that's been around that promotion is like only good things they can say.
Well, Adam Asenza debuted there. I think his first 5 fights might have been there. He's our champion.
Yeah.
Talk about legacy, right?
Yeah.
That was... Doesn't seem that long ago.
No.
I'm looking back at the... Like Kyle Prepolek, who else is fighter? Our commentator, Josh Hill, was the celebrity back then. I remember going to Hamilton Place Theater. He wasn't even the main event. Might have been John Alessio, and everyone left after Josh fought.
Yeah.
Like, it was wild. In Hamilton, we got a high-level main event, and everyone's out in the lobby cheering with Josh, having a great time. So.
And I mean, Josh went to Ultimate Fighter pretty soon after that, too. So, I mean, it obviously did well to push athletes and fighters here in Canada to
I think right after he went to World Series of Fighting and was like fought Marlon Moraes there twice. Remember that?
He did. It took him the distance the first one, but I mean obviously like that's a promotion I think that I don't know if people remember enough because there's still a generation now people that come to our shows that they're just getting into MMA that they don't know about the Score Fighting Series. Which, like, how does that make you feel too, Woody?
Yeah. Well, when I was explaining when I started in 2008, I'm like, holy shit, that's a long time ago. But yeah, there's young people in our crowd loving these guys, like seeing guys like Asenza and, well, Surrey's in the UFC. When we did a show in Kingston, like, there was super fans, young kids there to see him. Super cool. It makes me feel old, but who cares? Like, I'm loving where it's at, let me tell you. I love this job.
What do you love the most about this job, Woody?
As you guys always see me stressed out leading into it. When that event's over, like, don't get me wrong, I love the event when it's live and everything, but that Sunday when I'm driving home or as soon as I get home and I can watch the whole video or whole package myself, like I call Pat, I call all you guys and I'm like, this is awesome. Because the night of the event, sure, I'm watching it, but you're dragged so many different ways. I don't have a spot where you're for sure sitting there. So
you can tell you're still a fan of the sport, which I think is key for like success and survival in the job you do. If it becomes work, like you're not going to enjoy anything to do with anything with this. Like, has it become work for you at some point still?
There's a lot of lead up is work. Yeah. Yes, and you don't realize how it's just paperwork stuff, which I learned to do. It took me a while to get used to that stuff. But the fan part of it, I can talk all day about MMA. We can make matchups just blabbing on the phone with our company here, like when I talk to a group of you guys, we can make fights. And we always talk about who should we bring in. It is, as much as I'm known who gets credit for matchmaking, it's all you guys give me advice. Like, hey, what about this guy? You guys, you're more into the sport than I am. Even I'm a big fan, proving you're a super fan. But yeah, I don't know. Like,
well, you still obviously get you get rewarded when you see the success after, when you actually get to watch the show, and like that's got to feel very gratifying. Like I spent this time, I brought this guy in, even some guys super last minute, and the show was killer.
Well, back to Tony Laramie, he has what, like 500,000 views on our, maybe more than that, on our Instagram of him.
Really, is it 500,000, Patrick?
Getting close.
Oh wow,
yeah,
that is impressive.
Yeah, and it's him. When I touch people, I fucking put them to sleep. And it was, I don't know, and then his knockout of it, seeing that stuff, just, the kid deserves it.
Yeah, absolutely.
I love that it's our company that helped do that for him. I don't know. It's a huge, everybody works together in this, and the guys who don't, they're not here long, so.
I mean, yeah, with your experience, you would know that, and probably been in some companies that you've seen it that.
Well, since I got here, a lot of people say the same thing to me. Well, I used to fight, so you know what it's like. I was a low-level fighter. I did compete, but I get that from a lot of the guys. No, I'd rather fight for you. You at least fought before, and that's awesome. Thank you for the compliment, but I don't know.
What are your experience in like bringing a fighter, like for example Josh Smith, a guy that's been around North America, mostly the States, comes to fight for BTC, and like what they feel when they come fight for this promotion?
He's one. I don't know if his experience was all
well, obviously,
great. Unfortunately,
it didn't go great for him. But like you bring in some guys like Sylvester Sanchez,
yeah,
a guy that no one knew anything about, and
well,
Delano Taylor.
Delano was good. The MMA community is so close, and you wouldn't even realize it worldwide. There's a handful of MMA companies that are at the top. We all know. I know representatives from most of the companies, and it comes over friendships all these years. That's where a lot of these guys came from. Hey, I got a new guy coming up. Check this guy out. Send me videos. Send me info. And we've been lucky to put the right fights together. Like you said, Sylvester. We brought him from Guadalajara, I think, and he came to Ontario 3 times with us twice, and all great fights.
Could have literally been Canadian Fighter of the Year, like
2
years ago, and he was just some guy from Mexico that couldn't speak a lick of English. But
him and Luke Roberts is still one of my favorite fights. Proves how tough Luke is. 3rd round, really late in the fight, and he looked more gassed and everything. Boom, slam Sylvester at the buzzer.
Yeah.
Oh,
that card was great, even though it was unfortunate.
That was 1 year ago tomorrow.
Yeah, which is crazy.
Well, the long weekend.
Yeah. I mean, that card was incredible. That was Tony's debut for BTC. Bronson had a great performance.
Mike Mead against Manuel.
Yeah.
Picks him up over his head, almost
powerbomb a grown man.
A big grown man.
Big grown man. Big heavyweight grown man. So yeah, what do you have cooking up here? Like, what is your plan here going into BTC 25, and what does it mean to you to be a part of the 25th show for BTC?
Like I keep saying, legacy. This is every event we do, I want it to be better than the last event. I'm pretty confident every event's been getting better. We have great fights going in. But have we announced all the events for the next year?
We have not. We have announced what we have, I think. For this one, we haven't announced officially, I believe, to the public. We know internally when we're going. Okay.
Well, we got a lot of things coming, and this next year is going to be even bigger than the 2 I've already been here. So I know we're in the fall. We got another big show, which I'm hoping the last show and this show builds right into each other. Some winners from this one, winners from the last show. We still got some titles. That are vacant, but I think we got some amazing talent to fill those.
Do you have any plans to we had a tournament a few years ago. Is that something you look at doing, or something to set yourself apart? Because there is still some decent enough competition in the regional scene in this country right now.
So I'm confident we could do a tournament right now.
Yep.
In the under 3 or 4 fights in almost any division.
Mm-hmm.
The thing with it, again, is out of province guys. If we start we wanted to do heavyweights. I tried with heavyweights, but until the sanctioning changes, there's not many local heavyweights, so they all got to be out of province. So every time they fight, they need a new MRI or a CT scan. which is great for their health. But the cost from a fighter, a promotion, once we're on a level playing field with the medicals, we're going to do lots of cool things. But if we can do tournaments with pure Ontario guys, a few out of province guys, but it's the medicals that doesn't make sense yet. I want to do that. I keep saying we have the best fighters, so I know we can do a great one.
I think we've proven we have the best fighters, but yeah, it's unfortunate that you can't. There's a lot of stuff you put on paper that's gonna be great, but it's like practicality is really sometimes hard to pull out. But I think you've done a good job too when you put these shows together of blending like 19 to 20, 20 to 21. Is that kind of been a strategy you've always had, Woody, in your head?
I come from the love and pro wrestling aspect.
I could tell.
Like if you watch one of the old pay-per-views, or it's going into the Monday night, the week before was going in, they always just build into each other. This ain't a sport where you can predict the outcomes, but I want our fans to always, which they do, I'm confident, you don't have to see the poster. I know BTC 25's coming. I'm going. It's going to be great.
Yeah.
It's not, I don't have to see a fighter's face on the poster to know, oh, he's on it, it's going to be good. They know BTC's always good.
Yeah.
So,
but I think that's a good strategy too, of just like trying to, obviously you said you can't predict the outcome, upsets happen, and sometimes that's great because then you have a new face and a new guy you can put out there.
I love when our guys build it, like when we can put together packages where we have 2 or 3 fights of each guy. They're coming off wins. Like we have a few good fights on this next card that they just build right into each other. Like Ethan Herod, this kid's been coming up with us now for this will be his third fight. Yeah. He came in with us 0-1, so he's got 2 wins, and now he's fighting Alex Sosa. He fought here before, but he had a big layoff. His team is action-packed all the time. Like I got 2 guys just building right into each other. So again, that's every card. The goal is what you said, is they build into each other.
They build into each other. I mean, I know you're still working on this card too. What do you like? How much time and effort are you putting right now to make sure this can, have like a cherry on top or the icing on the cake?
I think right now we're at 11 signed fights. We've announced 6 of the 11. I have a few big names I want to put on there. Maybe a couple of our champions defending their titles. Maybe some new guys. But it's going to be, as always, high level. So.
I mean, and what's it too? Like the last show you brought in some guys super last minute. I mean, obviously that happens. But like, what's that stress like for you? I don't think a lot of people understand what that's like. It's like, hey, I brought this guy in from Brazil.
Yeah, we signed
super last minute. A guy from Bolivia that got stopped at the border.
Yeah. So we signed 4 fights about 3 weeks out. 2 of them from Brazil, 1 of them from Bolivia, and 1 of them from Florida. So 4 fights. And all the stress of the medicals. I could bitch and complain all day to you, Jay, but it got done. The Bolivia guy at the border, he was supposed to fight Clay Pie. We had all the paperwork in. It was something with the airline, didn't want to take the chance. And then once he would have landed, he would have been fine, but we couldn't take that chance. I'm still learning a lot of the immigration. They changed the rules from when we would bring in Mexican fighters. Yeah. You didn't need a visa. You needed a ETA, it was called. Well, they switched that so a lot of the same guys can't come back. And the visas for these certain countries, it's a learning process too, a lot for me. The Bolivia issue, I still think I did the right stuff. So, and then we got the other guys. Turned out to be hella fights, let me tell you. The one athlete, Mandel Nallo, fought, and he broke his leg, the first leg kick, and he stood on that leg for 15 to 20 more leg kicks.
Yeah, Devison, yeah.
Like, guys like that are tough, right?
Well, it's old school. And he had a long layoff too, but yeah, man.
I think he had over 40, 45
yeah,
fights
he's
too.
He's a very experienced fighter, Devison was. I mean, and too, when you're talking about, getting faces out there, obviously BTC's done a good job in building up fighters. Obviously, we've seen what Adam Ascenda does. But there's a nice new crop of fighters coming in too. Like, Clay Pie is a name you mentioned. That guy just has, like, I think, superstar potential.
Again, the pro wrestling. Have you seen him with a microphone in his hand?
I have, yeah.
Like, he's 2-0, and he can already talk like he's a seasoned veteran. So I think he's just got it. He's a guy that we definitely want to keep around here for a while. We got a couple like Anton Potosky. I brought up Ethan Herod. Andrew Babcock, Zach Baldwin, Ryan Yapsum. These are all young people that are so good. And yeah, big things coming.
And the good news is that you could see the majority of those names and faces on September the 14th at BTC 25, Woody.
Yep. Children's Arena in Oshawa.
BTC 25's coming September 14th, Children's Arena in Oshawa, Ontario.
Where do you get tickets, Jay?
Well, you tell me, Woody. Where do you get tickets?
BTCfight.ca.
Yeah, btcfight.ca, and I'm sure you can definitely go up to the box office in Oshawa, closer probably to the event.
Yep, Children's Arena. I've like I said, I've never been to Oshawa either, so.
But I mean, how excited too are you go into that new market?
That's what all these shows are.
Yeah.
Other than Burlington, we keep going somewhere new all the time for me. So that's why I asked if we've announced our dates. We got some new places that I've never got to go to, and
Okay. Well,
can't wait.
Can't wait, as Bart Scott would say. Can't wait. Well, Woody, thanks for
Thanks, Jay.
making the time out here. I'm sure we'll have you back on the show many times to come. But always nice to chat with you and catch up and see the great work you've put into the promotion.
Thanks, buddy. Likewise.
Thank you.
I love hearing your voice.
Me as well.